The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NBA.
Houston Rockets get back in the win column against the Dallas Mavericks with no Luka Doncic. Back in the winning column with a dub over the Dallas Mavericks, 110-99. Look, this homestand wasn't the way that we wanted them to start it with those first two losses against the Wolves and the Heat, but against a Luka-Less Dallas Mavericks team, the Rockets taking care of business. And this wasn't a game, look, you go into a game, right, Madison, with no Luka, and you expect, okay, this should be a win on paper, but this Mavericks team, still very talented. You've still got a game plan for and deal with Kyrie Irving, which we're going to discuss at some point because the Rockets did a pretty good job defending him throughout this game. It's a little bit of a trap game, right, when you go up against a team without their star player. And in this one in particular, the Rockets, you know, they battled back. They went down a couple early times, and they used that really big second quarter, outscoring the Mavs 37-22 to really take control of this game and then never really look back.
Yeah, I thought the Rockets did an excellent job tonight, you know, staying consistent, playing defense, getting out and running on their offense. And we had I thought the second quarter was really key for us, really breaking out and taking the lead in this game and then maintaining it the rest of the way out. I thought the offense looked a bit shaky in that first quarter, but I think once Gafford and Lively got in foul trouble and kind of were off the court in the second quarter, it really opened the offense up for our guards, and then also the defense kind of picked up and they got out and running, and that really vaulted us. And not just we were behind, I feel like, by a couple points, but actually vaulted us to a double-digit lead. And we just maintained that lead going into the second half and kind of maintained that. But we did have some scary moments, but the Rockets pulled it through with a good, solid win. You know, and honestly, I want to make sure we highlight some of the defensive stuff here, but I was really impressed with the offense in this game. It really felt like a strong, balanced overall kind of scoring approach, right? You had pretty much almost four guys in scoring around that 20-point mark for the Rockets. Yeah. You had Dylan Brooks with 19, you had Al P with 23 points, you had Jalen Green with 22, and then off the bench, Cam Whitmore with 18 points in 24 minutes off the pine. And it really felt like, you know, over the course of this game, like Jalen got the Rockets started. He had a strong first half, but a strong first quarter when the rest of the offense was kind of mucked up a little bit, and then kept it going in that second quarter. The second quarter is also where Alpi and Cam kind of both came alive. Cam had like a super quick 10 points off the bench. He was electric. And then Alpi, he struggled to start the game. He was 0 of 4 starting, and then he finished with 23 points, 9 of 16. So after that 0 of 4 start, he went 9 of 12 the rest of the way, so really turned it on there, especially in that second quarter. And for whatever reason, I don't know why the Mavericks did this. Maybe it was, maybe it had to do a little bit with the foul trouble stuff, but they were doubling Al P to start the game. And then for whatever reason, they just started guarding him in single coverage in the second quarter, and that's where he just turned it on. Like, they just had Gafford in single coverage trying to hold Al P, and then even when they brought Lively back, they had Lively in single coverage trying to deal with Al P, and he was just scoring at will on those guys. And then eventually they went back to doubling him later in the game, and that's where he started moving the basketball and getting some of those kick-out passes for shooters or just swinging the ball around the perimeter, so that worked out really well. And even for Jalen, I mean, I thought he didn't connect on any threes in this game, but he only took 3 of them. He was 9 of 18 inside the arc, hit some long twos, got to his mid-range, but I was most impressed with his ability. He just drove, just got all the way to the rim, and had some really strong finishes around the hoop. Yeah, I think the way Jalen played tonight is how I'd envision him. I'd like him to focus his game in on. I think we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I like the fact that tonight we saw Fred VanVleet more off-ball role. Now, that may have been just because Jalen had it going in the first quarter and they want to continue to feed him and see if he can build up on it, but that's something I would like to see happen more often. As long as Jalen isn't turning over the ball, shots will go in and out, but as long as he's not turning the ball over, I think we should leverage leverage his initiation of the offense because he and Alp in the pick and roll create so much gravity that often gets shooters wide open shots. And sometimes they don't always convert, but I just think the defense shifts and reacts to Jalen Alp pick and rolls in a way that just isn't generated with Fred VanVleet and Alp, although they are efficient as well. But like I said, I thought Jalen had a really good game. I liked his shot diet. I think Jalen is not a premier three-point shooter, or really just a good three-point shooter right now. And so his game needs to be in the in-between and downhill game. And I thought he got started with a couple mid-ranges at about the free throw line, and I thought he converted on them very well today. And he let that also lead into his ability to get downhill and also getting out in the fast break and really making plays in that way. And I thought he playmake pretty well, even though he didn't get one assist. He didn't even have one assist. I thought he moved the ball well within the offense. It didn't feel that way.
I'll be so honest. Like, looking at the box score after the game, I was shocked to see that he had zero assists, because it really did feel like he moved the ball well, and it felt like kind of the two-man game between him and Alperen Sengun. You mentioned, Jalen ran the show a lot more in this game. He had the ball in his hands a lot in this one. So it felt like there was a lot of, two-man game between him and Alp, setting the screen and then getting the ball to Alp on the short roll and then finding the next person after that. It really felt like the Rockets offense looked really good in this game with those two as kind of the bread and butter of the offense for the majority of it.
Yeah, and even the shots I felt like Jalen missed, they were good shots. I mean, there were a lot of layups that just kind of rimmed out, tough layups. I felt like he tried to finish with the athleticism, and also he didn't get any calls, but I liked him being aggressive, right? And I appreciate that shot diet tonight. Not him falling in love with the 3-point shot, not him coming after every screen if somebody's low, just taking the first open three he can get. I'm tired of him settling for those types of shots. I think he needs a different type of shot diet for his game. I mean, that stuff will work for bad opponents, but good defensive playoff teams, they're going to make him work. He needs to find different ways to be effective on different areas of the floor. And I think within that mid-range, I think he took a lot of mid-ranges tonight and he converted on a lot of them. And that even got opened up even more, where you seen him have a play with Lively in the third quarter where he was setting up for the mid-range, but Lively had seen that he had been making the mid-ranges and kind of attacked him, and he was able to hezzy and go all the way to the basket and get a layup. And that's the beauty of the in-between game. And those are the type of things. What I liked about that play also is it wasn't scripted. Jalen didn't say, hey, I'm just going to do a step back. No, it was reading how closely Lively was playing up to him because he had been converting at that mid-range and made that a real weapon. But yeah, a solid game from Jalen really in the first half, but I thought he wasn't bad in the second half either. I thought he just missed some layups that he could have made.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Rockets, when Jalen plays like this, right? And this was my point in the last episode that I recorded, is when Jalen plays like this and he has that downhill gravity, right? When there's a complement to Alperen Sengun in the two-man game, it makes it so much harder to figure out the Houston Rockets offense, because it's not as simple as just, okay, they're going to dump the ball to Alp and then it's going to kick out to shooters who are, shooting career worst numbers from three-point land. And the Rockets still didn't shoot the ball very well in this game. Only attempted 25 threes, only hit 8 of them. I love that play you highlighted about Jalen kind of using tempo, right? To get around Lively. Had that like 1-2 step after he pulled it back out and hit the hezzy. He also had that ridiculous circus shot where he got downhill and finished like up and under through like 3 different Mavericks.
In the fast break?
Yeah, I have no idea how, dude, no idea how he finished that shot. And one other angle to consider here, and this is like a team-wide thing, but Jalen also did a good job of this, right? Was getting to the free throw line, drawing fouls. The Rockets did a great job. It kind of let up as the game went on, but early on especially, the reason the Rockets weren't down by like, 15, 20, whatever in the first half of this game was because they held on with the free throw line. Like at one point, I think the Rockets had attempted like 13 free throws and the Mavericks hadn't even attempted a single one yet. Like they were getting they were being physical, they were driving with intention, they were drawing fouls, and they were getting sent to the free throw line. They were in the bonus super early.
Yeah, they were in the bonus. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and so getting all those extra free throws kind of helped them stay in the game. And then when their offense exploded there in the second quarter, they were able to take control of things.
Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
The Nuggets win again. They've now won 8 of 11.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast.
Nuggets get the win tonight, 139 over the Hawks, 120. Nikola Jokic, another triple-double, 23 points, 17 rebounds, 15 assists, only 2 turnovers, 8 of 16 from the field, took and made 1 3-pointer, made all his free throws, 6 of 6.
30 minutes.
30 minutes. Russell Westbrook, 16 and 11, and a plus 24 as he continues to look great with the starting unit. Michael Porter Jr., 21 points on 8 of 14, got up 5 threes tonight, 9 attempts. 5 threes for Mike, who said that he was going to try and shoot more threes because that's what the team needed. And boy, is he right. Jamal Murray, another 20-point game. 21 points for Jamal. 6 of 14 from the field. 7 of 7 from the line. Only 2 rebounds, 2 assists. But guess what? He got 20 points again. So I think it's hard to say that Jamal's like, I keep getting the things, like I keep getting Twitter questions about like with somebody tonight was like, do you think that he should come off the, he can help the second unit by coming off the bench. I'm like, guys, he's playing better now. Like, you're definitely not getting him to come out. Like, one, he's never like you didn't pay a guy a max contract to come off the bench.
It's just never going to happen. Like,
ever going to happen. Don't put that little thought when you're like, what if Jamal came off the bench, and put it in a little bag and then put a little box and then stuff in the back of your mind in a closet and then like duct tape and then build another wall, like actually build a wall over that door closet in your mind,
and then burn the closet.
Yeah. All right. So Ryan and I were going back and forth in this one after the game, and I think it's like an interesting question. And I was thinking about more on the long drive home to Northern Colorado about, because I've talked about this before in the NBA. When you have 82 games, you're going to have good losses, bad losses, good wins, and bad wins. Like the idea of like every win's a good win. Nonsense. Complete nonsense when you play 82 of these, especially when you have the kind of expectations and makeup that the Nuggets do. The Nuggets have plenty of bad wins this season. This one definitely feels better than those bad wins that were early in the season. Like the Raptors wins were bad wins.
Yeah.
Right? I credited the Nuggets after the win over the Jazz about taking care of business in a game where it's like, yeah, they didn't really press themselves. They weren't like, they just won that game with offense. So like, what's the difference here? I asked myself. And I think it's just mostly that first half, the process was so terrible defensively. I've been going to games in this city for 11 years.
Long time.
I've seen worse performances defensively by the Nuggets, and I've seen worse performances defensively by the opponent. I don't know that I've ever seen a game where both teams sucked that bad at defense, but the offense was so great. The ball's moving, they're popping, they're making such great passes. Jokic has like a million like awesome passes in that first half and in the second half, honestly, like the sidewinder under the basket to MPJ, the Russell Westbrook dish to Jokic, that like there's so many great passes. The ball was moving. They're knocking down shots, like, and that matters. Malone gets onto him at halftime, like he talked about it, and he said, like, I can't do this every single time, but like I ripped him a new one, and said like it was embarrassing, and they came out and responded. Did they? Because like that's my thing here, Ryan, is I look at this Hawks team and what they're capable of, which is they're an inconsistent team by their very nature.
Sure.
They have wins over the Celtics, the Cavaliers, and the Knicks, and the Bucks. They have losses to the Wizards.
2 of them.
And 2 losses to the Wizards, right? They have all of these, and they have other bad losses. They've been winning more lately. they're without Jalen Johnson and Bogdanovich tonight, who are pretty critical. And the number that I just keep coming back to is they shot 16 of 46 from three, 34.8%. Like they just missed and they got so many looks that if they made them, this is probably a more competitive game and the score is even higher. But also, for Denver, if part of my entire, I'm talking a lot here. I promise I'll shut up in a second. If part of my entire concept with this team is, look, you just got to figure out a way to make it to April. Try and get the team to a better place by April, and then figure it out matchup by matchup. I don't expect this ever to be a dominant defensive team. I don't expect this to be the Wolves, the Thunder, the Magic. I don't expect this team to be that good. I don't even expect them to be top 10, right? And they're not bottom 10, so I should be satisfied. This is all to say that, the offense looked awesome tonight. I still don't really know what to do with this one.
Well, you know what a championship team looks like, Matt. You know what it looks like. You know it when you see it. You know when you're building championship habits. You know when you are putting forth your best effort and going through the process. And Christian Brown spoke about that today, where you have to go through the process. You can't just expect things to fall into place. You have to work through it over the course of 82 games. You can't be just letting up. And that was honestly, hearing that was interesting, because he has this mentality of, okay, I'm going to play hard. I'm young. I'm still trying to make my way in this league. If I heard the same thing from Jokic, I would have been surprised. When Jokic carries the burden that he carries, when he only plays 30 minutes in a game, it's a win. It's a win for your team, especially for a Nuggets team that, he's been playing 38 minutes a night, man. Every single game has been 38 minutes a night. I'm just going to boil it down to that and think about the rest of it later. Every single time that the Nuggets can get some rest for their guys and be able to get through the 82-game season and go through the next step and get through the process and do what they need to do, I'm going to take that as a win for the most part. Now, Michael Porter, he only played 24 minutes. He got up 14 shots, 5 of 9 was plus 24. And what you look at these plus minuses at the end of this thing, Jokic plus 31, Porter plus 24, Russ plus 24, Christian plus 23, Jamal plus 11, but he, again, plays with the second unit. So I take it with a grain of salt. I think this is a lot more like the Utah game than you do. I think that this is more of a, hey, they got through it. They're going to try to get through it and do what they need to do. I'm not going to sit here and say that they need to play their best right now. But again, I talked about this in previous episodes. January needs to be where they start doing that. They need to start showing some of those things prior to the trade deadline, prior to when real winning time starts to happen, in my opinion. And you argued with me. You said they don't need to show that. They don't need to be the best version of themselves. Right now, they're just scaled all offense, no defense. And I think you just want to even that out a little bit.
So I come at you a lot because I have pretty much all my friends.
Yeah.
I am a troll is the word Adam uses, which I find offensive.
No, you're challenging. You're challenging.
A friend of mine in high school said that got me a button that says I am a natural born antagonizer. And it's accurate, right? I am an antagonist. And so I'm not kind of surprised that you're I think this is a lot like the Utah game. And the reason I think is because you view everybody in the East that's not Cleveland or Boston as basically the Jazz, right? Some of this is just you were
the Jazz are a different level. And I give the Nuggets a lot of respect. I knew that they would not win that game by a lot because it was in Salt Lake City and because they were just never going to do it. I have lesser expectations for this team than you do. I don't expect them to be competing with these top 5 teams and really dominating all the time and really showing out every single game. I think this is a flawed team. I think this is a team that's not playing their best version of themselves, and the best version of themselves might just be the 6th best team in the NBA, Matt. And if that's the case, then am I going to really get mad at a 19-point win against The Atlanta Hawks at home? No, of course not.
Yeah, so I think the difference though is like one, the fans definitely have that expectation, and they still want the team to kind of perform at that level. And I think the problem I have is like when you've won 8 of 11, it tells one story.
Mhm.
And like this is part of the thing of I think covering the NBA is you have to be able to understand the difference between like there's 8 of 11 with the Nuggets, and then there's like 8 of 11 with I don't know Boston. Because I think Boston like had a bunch
Different
of
feel.
losses in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think that like they're a flawed team, but this is what I've said since preseason, which is it's not a like they're not it's not going to be pretty in the regular season, but they can figure it out. And so that's kind of where I battle with myself on this, which is I'm just like, God, the defense is just so bad. But it also doesn't need to be. It just doesn't need to. The defense didn't need to be good versus the Hawks.
Right.
It didn't need to be good versus the Jazz. And while they do play the they play the majority of their games versus the Western Conference and versus good teams, they also don't play every game versus those teams. And every team in the league fattens up on these kind of wins. And a lot of times you just get these wins that are just standard. Like, and they beat them comfortably. They covered the spread. They blew them out. Like, there's not a lot to really complain about here. I can't get around that number on the 3-point attempts when I'm like,
I'm going to disagree with you here.
Hit me.
I think, and I know you're like, okay, well, of course you are. I think when a team knows that they are inferior, especially in the modern NBA, especially a team that is well coached, like the Atlanta Hawks are, like Quinn Snyder, they're going to try to hunt those threes. You saw Vic Krejci like coming down the floor tonight and just rising up and over Jalen Pickett, despite the fact that Pickett was in position to shoot. Like they knew that the only way they were going to win without Jalen Johnson, without Bogdan Bogdanovic, was getting hot from three. And I'm not surprised that they jacked up a lot of them. 16 of 46. Like I know 46 is a fair amount of threes. It's not that many in comparison to like what the league is now starting to do. So I just I'm not going to make that a bit to do. I'm just not like they were like, this was a high paced game for the most part. These teams were getting up and down. Look, the pace was 109 tonight. Like that's
Ryan. What do you think the average number of threes allowed per game is?
37,
41. And this was still 6 over that.
Okay, but the pace is higher. There are more possessions in this game. Matt, the pace was 109. Denver usually is at like 101, and they're fast. Like there were going to be more shots getting up and down the floor. I understand, and I really get it.
League pace is also up. Per 100 possessions, it's only 39.6, man. Like you're just wrong here. Like they allow too many 3-point attempts. We've seen it throughout the season. By the way, per 100 possessions tonight, they allowed 42.2.
Okay. Like I don't know what the
like your pace point is completely out the door. It's done. It's over. The pace thing is wrong. It's not pace. They allow too many threes. Are they ever do you think let me ask you this. I'm trying to think of a team. Thunder. Can they beat the Thunder if they allow 46 3-point attempts?
Yeah, because the Thunder are not like okay. I don't think they will beat the Thunder because the Thunder are like in a different tier from them. But just because the Thunder are going to take 46 threes doesn't mean that they're going to win. Like all of these games, like and all the games that the Thunder played last year in the playoffs, they shot basically under their average. It's going to be like, it's going to come down to whether a team gets lucky or not. Like, and the Thunder will do their best to avoid as much luck as they possibly can. But like Big Tony says in the comment section, I don't mind Risa Shea and Daniels taking 13 threes.
Sure, because Jalen Johnson and Bogdanovic were out tonight, so they took those threes.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think that Denver presses up on the other guys a little bit more because they're better?
Get ready to tackle the NFL with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. And the Sugar Bowl today presents an interesting line. The point spread has changed a lot over the last week, and right now, Georgia is the underdog. FanDuel has Notre Dame as 1.5-point favorites over Georgia. The Bulldogs will have their backup quarterback playing, which seems like it's the reason the spread has gone against them. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
No Brunson, no Deuce, no problem for the New York Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast.
General dominance of this game in the way they separated in the fourth quarter. The energy throughout was ridiculous. I have some good numbers on that, but just a fun watch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Am I crazy if I say that I think it arguably felt more akin to like some of the earlier games this season where they were moving the ball around more, really slinging it around? I mean, I know Josh Hart always loves to joke at Jalen Brunson's expense about like, hey, pass the ball, buddy. Like, you know, maybe if you pass the ball, you know, blah, blah, blah. But like, I don't know. They were passing the ball pretty good. I mean, they had 31 assists, which I know is not like exactly blowing the roof off compared to what they've done at some points this season, but something about the way that they were playing offense, the way that everything was flowing. And look, I'm not going to make some point like, you know, like a lot of people last year in the playoffs were like, oh, they're better off without Julius Randle. No, they were not. They were never better off without Julius Randle. Like that was, if they had him, they probably win that second round series. They were probably an Eastern Conference Finals team, you know, whatever. Like no matter what, he was a really good player and the team played really well with him out there with OG Anunoby and everything. So I'm not going to say like, oh, they played better without Jalen Brunson, but I'll just say they played surprisingly fun without Jalen Brunson. And I don't know, am I crazy for saying that like it felt a little more similar to some of the early games this season where they were really like, I don't know, where things were just a little more democratic, a little more just passing the ball all the time versus the sort of Jalen heavy version that we've been getting lately?
So here's my caveat version of this, and I think it's important to caveat this. Against bad teams, I think they might be more fun to watch without Jalen, just because it gets a little, to your point, a little heliocentric at times. It's a little bit similar to his former running mate in Luka Doncic. Like, and I don't want to say it's him being a ball hog, but it is a little bit of that. Like that stat came out earlier in the year that he had the ball more than any other player in the NBA. And it feels like that at times. And you watch the game against the Washington Wizards and you're like, he is completely unstoppable and maybe he should get the ball, but you don't get to see like all the quirks that make this team so incredible, like just like the full like breadth of Cat's offensive ability, which I'm sure we'll go deeper on. But just like I think tonight, like if you wanted to show someone like this is Cat's Oscar film, or is all maybe I can just say it's his all NBA film, in the sense that like if you were just to show like a flash cut of like this is what makes this dude great, you could show tonight from Cat, you could show tonight for Mikal, you could show tonight for Josh. You could certainly show tonight for OG the way he shut down Larry Markin and the way he was just bullying the Jazz inside. Like the individual greatness of these four guys really shine through. And sometimes when Jalen Brunson is out there, like Brunsoning, particularly against a bad team that just can't guard him, and it's hard to justify anyone else taking a shot, like you just don't get to see that. So I think it was cool to see what makes all these guys so special.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think part of it too was that led to them pushing the pace a lot more too. I was actually, just while you were talking there, I was listening, I was watching some of Cameron Payne's assists, watched some of Josh Hart's. And I mean, these guys really just from the word go came out and were like, we're going to try to play the passing. I mean, Cam Payne, like he's not Jalen Brunson, but on defense, I think at his best, he is certainly more of a pest than Jalen Brunson, especially against a team with, younger players that are still learning to handle the ball and still learning to, go against a truly good defense and whatever. I think that he could be a menace, and him out there with Bridges, with OG Anunoby, with Josh Hart. I mean, they combined as a team for 10 steals in this one, which is a little higher than usual. And like 3 of those went to OG, 1 each for Kat and Josh, 3 for Cam Payne, and then 1 each for Landry Shaman and Precious Achua. But no matter who was out there, like whether it was the sort of smaller lineup with Precious out there, whether it was the bench lineup with Kolek, who got some minutes in this one, like it seemed like the word of the day was pace. Like that seemed like, you know, if this is Sesame Street, that's what they came out there looking to do. And, you know, I think that they just really zeroed in on that as their big thing in this game. And that is sort of something that can suffer a little bit with Jalen out there too, you know, and again, it's like, he's one of the best half court players in the NBA, which is going to be great in the playoffs and everything. Like, as we've seen over the last 2 years, I mean, he's a phenomenal playoff player, whatever, but for a little regular season basketball, a little beaten up on the Utah Jazz, you know, who have what, 4 wins, something like that. Not very many. It doesn't really matter. They're really bad.
There's 7. Yeah.
7. Oh, geez, a whole 7. But yeah, I mean, if you're just going up against a team like that and you're not in that Utah high up air that just saps the Knicks of all their powers, it can, you know, like you said, maybe arguably be a little more fun to watch. You know, the I don't even want to call them the B squad, but just the minus Jalen Brunson squad of this team just beat up on a bad team on one given night, and especially give guys like Josh Hart and Karl Anthony Towns a chance to like really shine in a game.
Yeah, I just think this was pretty easily the most energy they've had since the Wolves game. And we've come on these pods and I've seen comments on YouTube being like, all right, you guys need to be more excited. This team has won 7 games in a row, 8 games in a row. We should mention now this was their 9th win in a row, which is pretty awesome. I think one more would be the longest winning streak of the Tom Thibodeau era, if I heard Mike Breen correctly on MSG. So that would be pretty cool. And I'm like, why am I not freaking out? And it's not that, like, obviously, like the one Wizards game was kind of bad. Like they didn't pull away until late in against Orlando in the second Wizards game. It's more so just that like they've played slow and haven't played, like, some Josh Hart stuff aside and some Cat stuff aside, like they played like slightly lethargic basketball for stretches. And this captured all the energy of the Timberwolves game and just concentrated it. I think because you got more campaign, because Josh Hart had to do more than ever, because OG and McHale were both back in rhythm, because Cat, like, again, very similar to that Timberwolves game. I thought this was one of the 3 or 4 best games he's played all season. And you almost feel the need to say that every time he is 30 and 20. And now he's just routinely having 30 and 20. So maybe it's actually a top 7 game he's played all year. We can debate it next segment, but the point is the energy was incredible. The stats that stood out to me, you mentioned 10 steals, they had 7 in the first half, 21 fast break points in the first half. They finished the game with 34 fast break points. For some context on how ridiculous that is, Denver leads the NBA with 19.5. So that is pretty darn close, 5 points away from being double the tops in the NBA, at least in terms of average. That's wild. The Knicks finished with 70 points in the paint. Denver also leads the NBA in that category, 57 on the year, but just punishing the rim, getting out in transition. You said it, Hart and Payne and Cat, like over and over again, just looking for that outlet and looking to make that next pass. It was beautiful basketball. It was fun basketball.